Well, welcome everybody. Let me go to slideshow mode. This is my email. That's the best way to reach me. At the end, I'm also going to share our assistant camp director, Courtney B's email. She is going to be in touch with families as we get closer to camp also. But I'm excited that you're all here. This means that camp is very close. If you have questions tonight, concerns that you want to raise, there's going to be a Q&A at the end, but you can also unmute. You can put them in the chat. And we're excited to have so many new families with us tonight. And also we have some returning families. So that's always really helpful. I really encourage, if you're a returning family and at any point you do want to provide a tip for a new family, don't hesitate. I think experience with camp and sharing that experience is really helpful.
Yes, I have answer.
This is our front steps photo. I like to start at the beginning because all kids are going to get to be a part of this photo. We send pictures out over the summer, and this is from a couple years ago. Now our photo is like overflowing over the stairs. But it's very exciting to think about a new summer at camp and 3 more sessions. And we've also added 2 new programs for this summer. So we're just excited to be growing and welcoming so many folks out at camp. Tonight, we're going to go over some updates for the summer. I'm going to make sure everybody's clear about our forms. We want to talk about packing, especially answer any questions or concerns there. I'm going to go over the routine at camp and some things related to healthcare. We're going to talk some about how we solve problems at camp, what some of our expectations are, and I'll do the Q&A at the end of it. If there was just 2 things that you took away from tonight, I just really want to emphasize that our required health forms, which I can help you if you're having any trouble accessing them, are now due. So it's really essential that those all get submitted. And then we do have a packing list. I'm going to talk about where you can find that. But I just want to make sure that you're using the packing list because we are a remote camp in the Berkshires and we want to make sure that kids come out prepared. And then lastly, just to label everything. So we're going to talk about that more. We're going to talk about a lot of things. And if that is all you remember after this call, that will be really helpful. On that note, these are some pictures about what camp looks like when we're out there together. If you have not been to camp, we do have tours every Saturday now. You're welcome to come out. But we live in these simple cabins. We're in the woods, as you can see just a little bit in these pictures. And so that's really the goal from this point forward, is for us to partner with you and really help prepare your campers to live together in a community of about 120 people, give or take, depending on the session, in the woods. So I hope tonight to be able to address questions you have related to that, and also to just give you some support in terms of where you can access tools to help you get ready. This is our mission for our camp. We're a nonprofit camp. Our parent nonprofit, Smith Park of New York, has run camp in one form or another for over 100 years. And our mission is to build a community of young people and young adults that fosters healthy living, cooperation, leadership development, and lifelong friendships in a rustic outdoor setting. So I hope that as we go through these different parts of camp and how we can get ready for them, it can connect back to our goals and what we're hoping your kids can get out of camp this summer. In terms of our program updates, we are adding new showers, which I'm very excited about. And I know returning campers are going to love. So those are 5 new showers that are going into our main bathhouse. So those little simple structures that you saw at the beginning of the slideshow, they have 6 to 8 bunks in them and 2 counselors. But there's a short little walk to our bathhouse. And so we're adding these new showers, which is really exciting. This building that's in the back of this picture is called our dining hall. That's where we eat all our meals. And it's actually sitting on a very old and not really ever completely done foundation. And so we have just started putting a new foundation under that building, and we're putting in a new floor. That part, I'm not sure is going to look that different to returning campers because it's essentially going to be the same building, but it's exciting. And it's the start of the multi-phase capital project that we have for our whole lodge building. So we have an incredible lodge where we do all of our programming in. It's in great shape. It has a steel frame, but all of its foundation work was done over 100 years ago and needs to be redone. So we're really excited to kick that off. We have also expanded our capacity. Again, it's just 8 bunks, but for us, that's really significant because we reached our full capacity a couple years ago, and we've just been scaling up in different buildings that we're reclaiming or shifting around staff housing and different things with some of our older campers. So we keep just figuring out whatever creative ways that we can find to add campers while we get ready to do probably a larger expansion in the next couple of years. We did a lot of review of camper surveys from last summer, and we have a fun program where you build fires and then competitively try to put them out with lake water. I can talk more about it at the end if people have specific questions, but it's really probably one of the favorite activities that we do at camp. And we had recently been doing it just at the end of the summer because it takes some creativeness when it comes to the size of camp. But we've now figured out how to bring it into every session. So that's exciting. We're adding camp swag, pajama pants, and sweatshirts, which has been demanded by campers. And we're also adding transportation from the New York metro area, which I'm very excited about. And I can answer more questions about that at the end, and we're going to add that to our registration, but I'll also be reaching out to our New York based families to make sure that you really know when that goes live in June, because that's a new thing for us. As I mentioned at the beginning, all of our forms that are required for camp are due now. So if anyone's having any difficulty getting to your required forms, I would suggest that you stay at the end, and I can probably share my screen and show you exactly how to get into that. But the simplest thing is you want to make sure that you've logged in at www.wawa.org, that you've logged into your camper's account, and then you've submitted everything there. If you're having any problems with like a health physical form or the back of an insurance card, you can also email us. We can take it in different ways and then get that uploaded. And Courtney Buxton has just joined us. Thanks so much, Courtney. She's our assistant camp director, and she can be really helpful with Ultra Camp is the registration platform that's hosting that part. But we do need to have all of these things completed. They're part of our license, so there's no exceptions. And if you do have a physical that's happening later, then you should be telling us the date of when that's happening before your camper comes to camp, and then we make a special note. But I just really want to emphasize we have to get all of this done because our nurse is preparing for the sessions. I really want to emphasize if your camper's taking any medications, and that includes melatonin or vitamins, that those have to be in the medication form. So if you submitted your medication form, but you forgot a medication, please do email me or Courtney, and we can make sure to update that. Also, I've sent out a couple emails, but I just want to make sure that people have noted any complex health conditions. Those need to be noted now. Otherwise, because we are remote, it can really cause some setbacks for our health team to be able to prepare. I'll pause for a minute. Are there any questions about medication authorizations, medication delivery at camp? We do throughout the day scheduled. We have a nurse who's there. I'll talk a little bit more about healthcare in a minute, but this stuff is just really important at this time of year. All right, so for packing, which is our first, I think, big and exciting topic of the night, the biggest thing is that reminder to label everything. But I really want to emphasize that packing is something that you need to do with your camper. It's really important that you don't pack for your camper. I didn't include a note in here about luggage, but you can pack your camper in whatever luggage works for you. It definitely is popular for families to get like a locker. I think that's what you call like a trunk. That's fine. And you can get any size, though I do recommend the kind of more, not small, but there's like kind of on the small size sold on Amazon, at Target, things like that. You don't need to get anything elaborate. It's just 1 week of clothes that you need to pack. But you can also do clear bins are popular. And so is like a suitcase, duffel bag, anything like that is completely fine. But it is just so important that your camper puts the things that they're bringing to camp that should be labeled into their bags. Because if they don't do that, it can be hard for them to remember what they brought. So they're going to lose a lot more stuff. And also it just really helps with ease on that first day, first 2 days, for them to have a sense of what they brought. And then they haven't been a part of packing, then sometimes campers can get to camp and immediately just like assume they don't have a particular thing, and they're looking around camp and they're thinking, oh my gosh, I would really need that. And actually, if we go with them and we search through their stuff, like they do have it, they didn't really need to be worried. So please do pack with them. There's a list and it's in the document center. It's in our Guardian handbook. And Louise, is it also directly linked on our website? Do you remember?
What was that? The packing
The
list?
packing list?
Yeah.
I think it is. Do you mind putting
Yeah.
it in the chat?
Yeah.
Thanks.
And to find it, you can go to up the top, for like the current families, I think it says. It's right under there.
Awesome. We will do laundry on the weekend. That's included for all of our campers that stay for 2 weeks. And if you're just a 1 week camper, then you just need to pack for 1 week anyways. And I want to emphasize the labeling, things like bug spray, sunscreen, honestly, shampoo, all of that is really helpful. Just get a Sharpie and throw their name on all of that. Because sunscreen and bug spray is going to be stored together so that it doesn't spill on stuff in the cabin, so that it's put on regularly. And so that really helps counselors be able to keep all of that organized, to have it labeled. Same with all their clothes. No matter how much you think they'll remember that they own it, please put their name on it, because you just would be surprised. And then the last thing I want to emphasize is the packing list is the packing list. So make sure you pack everything on there, including a sleeping bag, including warm layers or like cool layers, multiple bathing suits. All of those things are really essential for camp. Sometimes camp starts in the middle of a heat wave. This has happened a lot the last couple of years. It could be record hot temperatures, and within 1 week or even just a couple of days in the Berkshires, the temperature can plummet. It's always colder where we are. We're right on a lake. So just make sure that you pack everything on the packing list so that your kid can be happy and well prepared while they're out there. We do have a bunch of prohibited items, so please note that. Electronics should stay home. You can bring some type of an e-reader if your camper prefers, or like an old-fashioned iPod that only plays music for at night in the cabin. But I will say that increasingly I notice that those devices often die and have a hard time recharging and things like that. So they're not really recommended. You are allowed to bring them, but nothing that can play anything. We don't have any Wi-Fi and don't allow anything that's going to be showing anything or that sort of stuff. And please do make sure you know everything that's packed. We can't have any medication in any bags, and obviously no drugs, alcohol, vapes, or weapons. But you don't need to send anything like a first aid kit that has Tylenol or Motrin or anything like that. All of that is done in our health lodge, and we want to make sure that there's nothing packed in campers' bags. If you do have medications, everything goes into a Ziploc bag. And you're just going to keep that separate from the baggage, and you'll meet the nurse when you first come to drop off, and you can give the nurse all of the medication. It is really important that medication has to be in its original packaging. So our nurse cannot accept like a labeled bottle for anything. That includes things like melatonin. They need to be in the original packaging. Zyrtec, anything like that, it can't just be in a baggie labeled that. It has to be the original with the dosing. If it is prescription, we have to have that medication authorization already uploaded so that it's already been reviewed. That has to be signed by a doctor. And then it does have to be the prescription for the camper that's getting dropped off. I just want to emphasize that, because sometimes if you have multiple kids with multiple prescriptions and maybe there's some overlap, you have to make sure that you're sending out to camp the medication for the particular child that's getting dropped off. Otherwise, the nurse can't take it. Sometimes campers have like a utility, like a multi-use tool or a pocket knife that they're experienced with using, and they want to whittle or they want to make a marshmallow stick. That's fine. It does need to be labeled and then dropped off with the counselor, and we're going to be storing them in the camp office, and they can go through a little training and they can check it out during free time, but those shouldn't be packed in baggage. And then the last note that I want to make is if your camper has a special diet, there's a place for you to indicate that on their form. We can accommodate a lot of special diets. If you have concern that your child's special diet is so restrictive that you are having concern about, even with accommodations, them, being able to engage 3 meals a day. And I'm happy to talk more about what we serve and what's on our salad bar and things like that. But I do encourage you to reach out to me before camp, because then we might want to talk about some modifications when it comes to packing. But otherwise, please make sure not to pack any food, because we don't have any food go into the cabins. If you miss the beginning, they're simple structures. We use them for sleeping, and we just don't want to be sleeping with like skunks or raccoons, or there are many other things that live out there in the woods.
Ants.
What did you say? Mice?
That too, but ants.
Oh, ants. Yes, ants, everything.
They love that candy.
Yes. We're going to now start talking about pickup and drop off. If you do have questions, don't hesitate to unmute and you can interrupt me. So drop off for all of our overnight programs is on Sunday at 2:00. And then it is different for your pickup. So make sure that you're looking at your pickup day, which is in your camper. It's in your camper portal. So if you're a 2-week camper, then you're getting picked up on Friday at 2 p.m. If it's a 1-week, which is just that third session, even if the camper was there for the 2 weeks beforehand, that 1-week program is a Saturday pickup, and that's at 10 a.m. And then if you're doing the soft start program, that's going to be a Tuesday pickup, and that is going to be at 5:00. For our drop off, when you come up the camp road and you come in the camp gate, you are going to do a drive-through drop off. And so it's going to have these 4 different stations. We've gotten really efficient at it. That's why we moved to just one drop off for everybody. First, you're going to meet Vaughn, our program director, and he'll tell you what cabin you're in. Then you'll go see our healthcare center, which is going to be Nella, our healthcare coordinator, and Courtney B will be there too. If you have any questions or concerns about healthcare and you hadn't gotten to talk to Nella ahead of time, you absolutely can take her time during that. Nella supervises all of our healthcare all summer. And then we also have nurses that come in for a week or 2 throughout the summer. And so the nurses are going to be doing the day-to-day care and medication, and things like that. And they'll be there also if it's not the same person as Nella. So you can ask questions if you need to review anything. Just please make sure that you've already noted anything like prescription medication ahead of that, because she does need to have that already documented before you come to that drop off. At our third stop, we're going to do goodbyes. So you'll be able to get out of the car. We would ask that you definitely turn it off. Again, take your time. There's no rush with drop off. I think it is an exciting time, but you can get out of the car. Definitely encourage hugs. Meet your counselors. Your campers counselors will come up based on your cabin assignment. You can meet them. If there's anything else that you want to add, then you can. And then guardians are going to get back into the car. And then campers will go off with their counselors. So the luggage is going to stay in the car at that third stop. Then you'll pull around to luggage. Our facility director, David, will be there, usually with some really helpful counselor and trainings. And that's where you're going to take out the luggage. If kids do have something like a backpack, a camera, if there's anything like loose that's small, they can take that with them when they go with their cabin. But any big luggage, sleeping bags, all that kind of stuff, just please have it be labeled, and then we're going to drive it down the hill. So then you'll have a chance to pull out, and the kids will stick together with their cabins. And usually the last couple of years, by about 4:00, they can walk down the hill and all their stuff will be waiting for them and they'll get to move in together. For those kids who are coming to overnight camp, the first day looks like this. They're going to go down the hill. They're going to take tours. They're going to have some time to set up their cabin. We have a ritual at camp where they'll do like cabin agreements. So they'll talk together about ways of living together in the cabin that are supportive. They'll do some icebreakers. We'll do some icebreakers as a whole camp. We are really fortunate to be a size camp where usually, obviously, everybody doesn't know each other on the first day, but we can definitely start breaking into that. And for our 2-week campers, usually everyone does know each other by the end of 2 weeks. And I would say even for our 1-weekers, they're certainly going to know a lot more people than they did on day 1 by the end of 1 week. On that first day, we're going to do swim assessments. Those happen in our shallow area of swimming. We have a shallow area and a deep area. Our deep area has 2 sections to it. One has a recreational rolling log, which is a lot of fun. So it's going to start off in the shallow area. Campers will be asked if they're able to do a couple different strokes in laps across, and then they'll be asked if they're able to do treading water for 2 minutes at the end. Absolutely open to all swim abilities. We offer swim classes in the afternoon for all of our abilities. And so if kids don't know how to swim, they will still be encouraged to get into the water. It's really, really helpful for our waterfront director just to get a sense of like comfort with the water, comfort with putting face in the water, anything like that. So kids, everybody will be encouraged to do the assessment regardless of their level of swim. If anybody has concerns, they can note that at drop off. Courtney B is a good person. You can get in touch with me. I'll be sending out communication right before camp. But we really try to keep them pretty fluid. Kids can reassess like after a week. I want to emphasize if kids are new to camp, sometimes they will start out in a little bit of a more restricted swim area than they might have thought. And that's just going to be based on the depth of our lake and our safety procedures and getting to know them, but they absolutely can reassess. And Carly Galvin, who's our waterfront director, has been at camp for, I think, 12 years or might even be 13, but she's been with us for a long time. She's an incredible swim teacher. And she's really happy to work with kids and explain things to kids and things like that. So we try to keep that welcoming. And it's also just an important part of us getting to know campers and their abilities on the water. We'll all get together for an orientation, then we'll have dinner, and then we open up our lake for some boating after dinner. And then we'll have a big campfire and we'll sign up for skill classes that start the next week. Or the next day for the next week, and kids will get to pick what they're taking. They'll hear about different things. They can talk with their counselor. And then we'll have what's called a friendship circle. We do this every night at camp. So we sing a song together, and we always end every day the same way. So we'll start that off. Then we have some time in our cabins, and we keep bedtime on the early side that first night. Our youngest cabins will sometimes have lights out by like even 8:45 or 9, depending on their energy. I just want to go over a few things that come up on that first day in terms of key camp rules. Our number 1 rule at camp is to have fun. Kids will see that like all over camp. Every sign that has instructions on how to do something usually starts off with a very enthusiastic have fun. We do also ask that all of our campers respect everybody else at camp. Respect themselves when they're at camp, and also really respect the camp environment where we're located, our buildings and our facilities and things like that. We have this concept at camp to always have a buddy. I think it comes in handy just generally being in a new, rustic environment. To do things with someone else is really common. You'll hear staff talking about that a lot. I think it's a great way that we build leadership with sort of the same concept. But we also keep it as just a general safety note around our base camp. We have a really wonderful facility where you can see everything and see everyone. But we do want to make sure that campers are sticking with another person because we are completely in the middle of the woods. We also have an idea of not yucking another person's yum. So we'll talk about that on the first day. It applies like most specifically to our meal times, where we really encourage people to enjoy their meals, get what they want, get things from the cereal bar, the salad bar, try something new, etc. And then also to not like yuck if somebody else is enjoying something. So if it's not your preference, that's fine, but you don't need to get down on it. But we really do try to broaden that out to camp as a whole. We encourage campers to try new things. We also really encourage campers to do things based on their interests, their passions, how they're feeling on a particular day. And again, we want to encourage everybody at camp to be supportive of people, making their own priorities and not like yucking other people's yum. Another core rule that we have at camp is we are a camp that gets really enthusiastic about surprises. We do all sorts of funny things. Sometimes our teenagers will like rearrange the dining hall or move boats to new places in the night, or all sorts of things that are fun and surprising. But we don't keep secrets at camp. So we'll talk about that. Sometimes that can be unusual to campers if they're not used to that concept. Certainly doesn't mean that campers can't have their own thoughts or share a concern one-on-one with a counselor or things like that. But we do ask that campers don't keep secrets, and also keep in mind that no one should be asking them to keep a secret at camp. We will go over proper clothing at camp, and I like to give families a heads up before you pack. It's on the packing list, but really, really important footwear. Cannot be slides, can't be Crocs without the sports mode. And I would really recommend that you look at those Crocs. If they've been worn all year and they're getting slick, they're just honestly not safe for camp. So we want campers to be putting on sturdy footwear that does have a back to it and has the toes covered. They can bring and should bring shower shoes. So sometimes if they have like a favorite pair of Crocs, those are best used at camp in the shower. Or if they have flip-flops or slides or something like that. But I want to give folks a heads up that they'll get asked to change, just because our camp, the terrain is really uneven. And that's probably one of the biggest reasons why we end up doing trips to urgent care, is because of twisted ankles. And we've seen like such an improvement when we get really firm about our shoes. And then they'll get some time to learn more about the waterfront. That's what you see in this picture. But our waterfront director will go over just some of the basics that they'll then be learning over the next couple of days. But we have a lot of fun on the water. We have all sorts of boats. We have free swim time plus swim classes. And so we'll start to orient kids on that first day about what the procedures are like on the waterfront. Here is our schedule that you can find on our website. Unless there's any questions, I'll probably go on, but don't hesitate to be in touch with me if you have a camper with any questions about a particular time in the day, or what a routine is like, what's bedtime like, what are, skill classes like, capers, if folks don't know what those are, that's our word for a chore. So after breakfast every morning, everybody in camp will be a part of resetting camp. We do it during the day too, but we do a more intensive time first thing in the morning. At the end of camp, we'll have pickup. That's going to be 2 o'clock on Friday for our 2-weekers. I think I already went over the times, but that does happen differently. Just to give folks a heads up, you'll park where you drove through, and you'll actually walk down. Or if you need accessible parking, there will be somebody up there who can just make sure there's a parking spot for you. We've never had an issue. We have enough parking spots down below, and you can drive right down behind our lodge. That's where you're going to pick your child up, is at the back of the lodge. Our nurse will be there. Courtney B will be there. If your child has something to pick up, like an art project or something to take home, it'll be there. If there's any medical notes for you to take home that you don't already know about, like if your child had a tick bite, or if there's anything that's been a little bit lingering that hasn't been a concern, I'll talk about this in a minute, enough to call home, but maybe you just need to know about it, like a bump or something like that, you'll get a note. And so you'll be able to get your camper, see the lost and found, grab an ice cream. You can tour camp. You can go to your camper's cabin. There's really plenty of time on your pickup day. And then you're going to walk back to your car. And at the top of the hill, there's going to be all of the belongings. So you don't have to take anything out of camp. It's already going to be moved up the hill for you. just please make sure you take everything. It usually doesn't look the same. I try every year, but usually your kids' stuff does look a bit different when you're picking up your camper. So just take some time while you're up there, open the baggage, make sure the sleeping bag is there, et cetera, et cetera. And please take their laundry. There's usually a bursting bag of it. And it is usually a challenge, right? If you get home and all of their clothes from the last week are still on our field. We figure it out, but please take their laundry. On that note, please take their laundry. All right, we're going to talk now about health and safety at camp, and then we'll open up for questions. I think I've already mentioned that Nella Stoltz is our healthcare consultant. She is available if you need to talk through anything before camp. She's been a pediatric nurse practitioner for a very long time, and she's been with camp. I think this is her 12th year. So a lot of experience, both with kids in general, but also with this particular camp. And I'm going to talk a little bit now just about our common procedures if we have any emergency or an illness comes up at camp. So a couple things before you come to camp, it is really important that if your camper has a fever, if your camper has a really serious cough, that's not improving, diarrhea, vomiting, anything like that, it's really important that you plan to keep them home. We'll reschedule drop off and that you notify us. We are 120 people living, essentially in one big house. And we always want to start off on a strong foot. If your camper does get sick while they're at camp, if they have a fever or any of those other symptoms, then we're going to have them come on up to our health lodge, which you'll see as you come into camp. It's at the top of our hill. We have an office up there. Our nurse also lives there. We have several bedrooms. So we'll give you a call if we need to transfer a camper there. And if they're there for more than 24 hours, then we're going to follow up with you and just talk about progression. In general, we like to encourage kids to go home if they're getting sicker, because camp isn't usually the most comfortable place for kids to get better. But that will be a discussion, and it really depends on the camper and their level of comfort. So we'll call you and we'll keep you posted if we do need to take care of a camper while they're in the health lodge. I think I've mentioned already that prescribed medication gets given out according to whatever schedule you've submitted. Most typically we do it after each meal and then before bedtime. But if your camper does have, for example, for some reason, a medication that they would take before breakfast, then that can usually be accommodated. We do have on the health form an opportunity for you to share health history. And I want to emphasize that can include mental and emotional health. So if your camper is getting additional support in one way or another, has had some concerns, I just want to encourage that you indicate that on the form. Those forms are confidential. They get shared with me and Nella and Courtney B, our assistant director. And we do provide notes if it's in terms of something helpful. If you've noted something that helps, we will share that with their counselor, but otherwise it really is just shared among that top leadership. And if you have any concerns about that, you can just reach out to me directly and we can talk over the phone. But since they will be living with us for a week to 2 weeks, I want to emphasize to please make sure that you're sharing experiences that might come up while they're at camp so that we can prepare. Bedwetting is really, really common at camp. And I want to add that sometimes kids have maybe the bedwetting is a little bit more in the past, and at camp it can come back up again along with fatigue. So if there is a history of bedwetting, if you could let us know. If you want to get in touch, we can talk about some strategies, but it's normal at camp. We have protocols for handling it discreetly, but it is helpful for us to make sure that counselors are looking out for it, because we just don't ever want a camper to not be having laundry happening frequently enough and things like that. We do have laundry at camp, so we can be really responsive. Homesickness is really common as well, especially if it's a first-time camper, though not always. It can also come up for returning campers. If you have a first-time camper, I would encourage you to tell them. They can definitely tell their counselor if they're missing home. Campers shouldn't be bribed to complete time at camp. Instead, it's best to walk them through strategies for handling homesickness when it comes up. And so at camp, counselors are going to be happy to talk to them. They're going to encourage them to pick something that they like to do to get their mind off of it. And we'll keep in touch with them about how it's going, and we'll keep an eye on them and make sure that they're moving along. And we'll be in touch with you if we have any concerns or if anything's getting worse. I also really encourage mail. So we do pick up the mail every day. If it's a 1-week camper, you can drop mail off. Any of our campers, you can do that. But the 1-week campers, I'll send you an email really quickly telling you not to send any more mail because it just won't come in time. But you can drop mail off. You can drop off care packages as long as they don't have food. Mail is done at the end of meals, usually dinner, and it's really fun. And it's a great way to help campers through homesickness and really encourage campers to write home. That does mean sometimes that you'll get a letter with homesickness. You can always reach out to me if you want me to follow up on anything. And also you can wait, and usually those letters will then progress. When it comes to camp and problem solving, behavior expectations, and some of the different things that we do to prevent abuse or bullying at camp, I want to start off and just highlight that we have this document in the Guardian Handbook called our Bill of Rights. So I would encourage you to read that with your camper because I think it really sets that tone for how we want to see them participating in the camp community, and also what they should expect from others, especially if it's their first time away. I really want to make sure that that campers are aware of those expectations and communicating with their staff, seeking me out, seeking out our camp nurse. We're always available if there's any concerns. During the day, we'll have little get-togethers. We call them circles. They can be lots of different ways. Sometimes they're happening at the table. A lot of times they happen during cabin time at night. And those will be times when counselors will open up time for campers to answer questions, share things about themselves. It's always optional. Participation in circles is totally optional, but it's a nice way to build community and also provide opportunity for campers to bring up concerns. We do have a mediation process that's structured. It's collaborative. It can happen in really small groups. It can happen in bigger groups. And that usually includes a leadership member and is available for campers if there's like an ongoing problem or something that we want to try to sort through and agree on a solution together. We also do ask that our campers stay with a rule of 3 at camp. Again, we'll talk about this more when they're there. This is for things like the bathroom, for being in the cabin, for going places. Our base camp area, you can really see everything. So generally speaking, we're able to spread out staff and campers can really like move about. But we do ask that they stick with the rule of 3 when it comes to different sensitive areas around camp or places where you might go and we don't have line of sight. And like to always give folks a heads up, especially when campers are coming with family or friends. At camp, we do have single occupancy areas. So things like bunks, showers, changing stalls, the cabin itself, if there's not a counselor in there, those are all just for one person so that we can keep things appropriate for while we're at camp. The last thing before we get to questions, I think this is the last thing. I really want to highlight that missing campers happens just as much, if not more, like parents missing campers, than campers being homesick. So if that comes up for you, sometimes I think it catches parents off guard. It is really common, especially if your family routine involves a lot of contact or different forms of digital tracking, which is just like very, very common for all sorts of reasons, whether it's buses or transportation or all sorts of things. It can be a really big change for your camper to be off at camp and just communicating to you, via letters. So I do really encourage that you write them a letter and keep it positive about things at home. And there are plenty of parents that are sending off letters or postcards every day. It's definitely a nice routine on the camp end to just be able to pick that up and get it. You also shouldn't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm happy to give you a personal update. I don't encourage phone calls in these situations. so that so that your camper can continue to like enjoy camp. But you absolutely should and can reach out to me. And then one of my camp director mentors reminded me that she would just always like really be very direct with folks and say, if it's really, really hard, then take advantage of the time, sort through clothes, get out, things that have been outgrown, organize spaces, etc. So whatever keeps you busy and can be helpful. But I do want to just encourage families to be in touch with me if you're experiencing a bunch of just missing your camper and if it's causing any worry or concerns. The last little thing before we do questions is just that we do still have some openings. So if you wanted to add to your camper's time at camp, you can be in touch with me. And you can also let people know. And we also have very few hiring spots left, but I am still doing a few interviews because sometimes in the last month before camp, we will have some adjustments come up. So if you know anyone who's 18 or older and a really great youth leader, you can send them in my direction. And now I'm going to open it up for questions. Thank you all so much. Oh my gosh, it's 6:45. Talked a little bit fast, but I'm happy to answer questions. You can put them in the chat. I want to emphasize that there's nothing too big or too small when it comes to camp.
I was wondering what sort of sports are available.
Great. So we have volleyball, basketball, soccer, and kickball are our most common land sports. Swimming is also really popular, and water polo and sailing. And then we have a bunch of different types of boats. Additionally, we play ping pong and a lot of gaga ball, which I'm not sure if that fits as a sport, but it's very popular. It's played like a sport at camp, I would say. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's kind of like dodgeball, but in a pit.
Yeah, I've heard of Gaga. That seems to be very popular now.
Yeah.
I'm just also curious, is there any baseball, or I'm just thinking if my son should bring a mitt.
Yeah, so bringing a baseball mitt is great. We have 2 blocks of free time that happen. And so we have some balls and mitts, but kids do bring mitts, and that's a great time to have a catch. We have not played an organized like full game of baseball in a little bit. But T-ball, not T-ball, what am I thinking? Wiffle ball absolutely is sometimes a cabin activity. If there's a group of kids that really loves wiffle ball.
Wait, I'm trying to put my cheese in there.
So then hold it on your lap.
I don't want it on my lap. That's what I'm trying.
Other questions?
Hi, Celine. I have a question. I know you're going to send out information for the bus for those
Yep.
who are going to take the bus. Will it be round trip, or you really have to pick the child up?
Yeah, so we're going to do it both ways, and we'll let you pick too. So if you don't want to do it both ways, you'll have that option, but we are going to do it to and from. And I'm just finalizing. I'm really excited about this. It does adds a layer of logistics. So it's coming on a little bit later. But Courtney Heritage is going to be leading that. She's our CIT director, and we'll get you that information in the next couple weeks.
Thank you.
Hi, my child Lucy is very excited about archery. Could you share a little bit more about like how often they're able to access that and what that is like?
Yeah, archery is awesome and really popular at camp. So archery happens in the afternoon. It's a 45-minute class. And we have a range that's up near where you get dropped off. So does mean walking up the hill, but it's really not that far. And so that would be in the afternoon for an hour, and that's part of the skill class sign up. So I think for Lucy, that's that 1 week. And so there'll be one rotation of classes, and kids get to rank them. And archery is a really accessible one. And the class itself, I'll just expand a little bit, is like a target, and sometimes they make their own targets, and there's bows and arrows. Jacob has been our archery teacher. He grew up at camp. He's very passionate about it. and they can try and get different scores on the archery target, or for someone like me, try to just hit the target. If it rains, then they'll do rainy day activities, which are sometimes things like making targets, or playing different hand-eye coordination, or fixing arrows, or things like that.
Amazing. Thank you.
These are great questions. Thank you.
Hi, I have a quick question with regards to siblings.
Yep.
If the siblings are in different age groups, do they ever see each other?
Yes,
there
definitely. Yeah.
Things will go, okay.
Yeah, so if you have siblings that are across programs, like our teen camp program, versus our base camp program, then those siblings will have periods of time where they won't see each other. We do some camp outs around the property that won't overlap. And those teen campers will have the opportunity to take an extended day hike if they want to. So that would take them out of base camp. They do some trips to waterfalls locally that don't happen at the same time. Sometimes they do day trips. So there will be chunks of time in the day, which are never a surprise, where they might not see each other. But otherwise, when they're in base camp, our whole program is around the lake, which is what you see in the background here. And everybody eats in the same dining hall. We do all of our activities in the same lodge. We have a big wraparound side porch. All of those Gaga pit, basketball, volleyball, everything like that ends up happening all in the same space. So they'll definitely see each other. When it comes to the afternoon activities, and sometimes our all camp activities, again, if they're not in the same program, then sometimes the programs will split up, or we have sometimes where cabins themselves will be doing something together, like building a carnival booth or something like that. But the whole camp is still going to come together within an hour and a half. And our structured free times, which happen twice a day, campers get to pick what they're doing. So they can choose who they're with and where they are. And so for siblings, that means they can take space, they can be together. And either way, it's really easy.
And my last question is with regards to if you have a camper who is not so enthusiastic about doing anything, who may have who have some sort of electronic love that they will have to release. Do you have any way of encouraging them to do other things, since they will not have their electronic device, which keeps them, which is what they're attached to most of the year?
So one thing I would really suggest is to really think about their interests when it comes to packing. And even if they're completely resistant before they come to camp to things like word puzzles, sketchbooks, colored pencils, graphic novels, books, sometimes books that they loved reading when they were younger, but they don't read anymore. I would really encourage packing things like that, because usually at camp, within a couple of days, that's campers will just devour things like that. My daughter is almost 12, and she was recently with one of our neighbor best friends, and they were both talking about, they're like making their book list for camp. Again, if kids aren't used to that, then they're probably not going to be enthusiastic about that. But once they get to camp, everybody is going to be, reading, playing games. Cards are so popular at camp. So I really encourage, it's on the optional list, but bringing like a deck of cards, bringing Uno cards, those are also really nice things to send out to camp if you are sending a care package, or if you want to drop one off. We have tons of cards, but I mean, kids
Magic the
cards,
Gathering
like,
is very
Yes.
popular. That's a
Magic the
nerdy
Gathering
thing
is
that
really popular.
video
if
game
anyone's-
kids tend to like.
Yeah, if you have kids that are really into games, then Magic the Gathering, if they don't know anything about it, they could probably watch like an intro YouTube. We have staff members who will teach them it. We have extra decks. They don't need to bring cards or anything like that. But yeah, I would just encourage keeping an open mind and maybe thinking about bringing some things that maybe they would want to do when, once they're at camp. But then otherwise, I would just add that we have a really regular routine. We're all always doing a bunch of things. So, as long as they're open-minded about it, it is really likely that they will find their groove at camp. There are some kids who like to just hang out on the side porch. We have fires going. We're going to be cooking outside. There's really like a lot going on that usually the what to do without the screen fills itself in very, very, very quickly.
Right. Yeah, I've got one of those. And last summer I got a picture of him like digging a ditch in the rain.
Willingly. I didn't force
Willingly, like, right. Yeah, this wasn't it was like he was doing that because I don't know, he liked it. So it's surprising what they'll decide to do when they're away from the screens.
That's such a great question. Thank you.
There's some questions in the chat too.
Oh, great. Thanks so much. Oh, that's funny. They're not
So,
maybe.
like, Megan was asking about what if a camper would like to come home early after a week, which I answered a little bit, but because I have experience with that one.
Yeah, so if a camper is having homesickness and is persistently asking about coming home, and we've done kind of all of our normal protocols, we will be in touch with families, and then we really take it on a case-by-case basis. If we do feel the need to call, I do really encourage you to encourage your camper to try it. Most of the time, a camper can move through, and it's really fun to finish the 2 weeks. And the second week of camp is really incredible. But we will be in touch, and we will take it on a case by case. Does that, who was it that answered or asked that question?
It was Megan.
Yeah, Megan, does that? For some reason, Louise, the chat isn't coming up in my.
Yes, that does answer my question. Thanks, Lily.
Okay, great. But I don't know why. Is there another question in the chat? Because I can see everybody, but I see the chat now. No, it came up.
There was another question about transport from New York City.
Great. Yes, we are going to do transport, and it's going to be from the Stu Leonard's in Yonkers. When we looked into the logistics a little bit more and just realized our population in New York is mostly now really Brooklyn and the Bronx, with some Manhattan, some Long Island, that we wanted to start at the top to try to be able to pull in as many people as possible. And we'll have information, Karen, and it's going to come out. I'm going to email everybody, but I'll also make sure to really follow up with our New York families so that you know when it's there. It's going to be June 1st, and we'll give you an option to pick if you want it round trip or just one way.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
What about eating? If you have a camper who's a pescatarian, how do we relay that kind of information to you?
Yes. So you're going to, in the camper health history, Courtney B, you're on now. Is it called we have two different forms, but it's in one of the required forms. It's going to ask about their diet. So like if they only eat fish, then they're going to get opted into a no meat. We don't serve fish at camp. So they'll get opted into a no meat diet while they're at camp. We have a salad bar or a cereal bar for every meal. And that is for the most part, always, sometimes a salad bar has like a little thing of shredded chicken on it, but the standard for all of those things, for both of those bars is going to be vegetarian. It's always going to have vegan substitutes if it does have dairy, and it's always going to have any gluten labeled if there is gluten, and everything at camp is nut free. So just indicate that on the form, and then be in touch with me if you have any concerns. If your kid has a special diet and you've noticed it gets particularly restrictive in a new environment, then reach out to me and we can talk a little bit more about specifically what they eat. I can share you the menu beforehand, things like that, if that helps, because sometimes we do make some more accommodations depending on the kid. Does that answer the question?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, so my kid is a Pokemon card collector, and something that other kids do at camp, or is that something that's like not really recommended because it would get dirty possibly or like torn or whatever?
Yeah, so for sure, kids bring Pokemon cards. Is there anybody on the call that has experience with how kids make those decisions? Because I will say with both Magic and Pokemon, my impression is that kids curate what they bring before they bring it and don't bring, I mean, in general, we say don't bring anything
Yeah.
irreplaceable of any form. Don't bring your most precious bedtime stuffy or
Right.
anything
Yeah.
like that is my general recommendation. So for Pokemon cards, that's been my impression. Because kids definitely bring them and play with them. But my impression has always been it's curated similar to Magic cards. You don't want to bring something that, you know, you would be heartbroken if it, like you said, got damaged or disappeared.
Yeah, just don't send
Thanks.
any valuable ones.
Yeah. And I see Courtney Buxton has answered in the chat, but I'll just share for everybody that we do upload photos every 2 or 3 days. You'll get a link. We'll be using, I think, Smug Mug. You'll get a password again, but they don't come every day. For a multitude of reasons, we don't have any Wi-Fi in our base camp. So when we do our photo uploads, it's like several hours in the afternoon outside of camp. And we really aren't set up in a way where we're regularly removing staff from our programming for long periods of time. And then also logistically, even with that Wi-Fi, I just wouldn't feel comfortable telling parents we could share or families that we could share photos every day because things can come up because of how remote we are. So we do it every couple of days. You'll get it in your email. And again, if you're concerned in the interim, you can be in touch with me and you can get a personal update. And then also, if anything is concerning of you in the photos, we're really not like a camp that goes around and like forces all the kids to smile for the photos. So if you have any concerns, please be in touch because sometimes, you know, we just didn't catch your camper's like best angle, but also sometimes you'll notice something about your camper that we wouldn't notice. It's really helpful to hear from parents and families. You're going to know your camper the best. So just be in touch with me if anything pops up in the photos and you want us to follow
I
up.
remember, I think like last year, the year before, like every single photo of my son was like, he looked miserable. And I know for a fact he wasn't. But
Yes,
it was
this can
just, but Ren was like just looking
Oh yeah,
so
yeah.
sad.
I remember
He
you were
goes,
in touch
he
with
goes,
me.
because I was like, what is going on? Is he okay? And she's like,
Yeah.
yeah. He goes for 6 weeks. He loves it. It's,
Yeah, I remember that.
but it was just
It was
so
like
funny.
a moment in his life of serious photography.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Wait, can you go for 6 weeks?
Yes, some people go for 6 weeks, more and more. I went for 6 weeks always as a kid after my first summer.
Is there more? Is there space to sign up for longer?
Yes. Yeah, you can be in touch with me, Jamila. Yeah, we
Is there-
have with the teen camp. You're coming first session, right?
Yeah, the 29th, right?
Yes. Yes. So then the second session for teen camp, I think, is currently full, but there is space at like starting July 27th.
What is the last date in August that you can do it?
It goes July 27th until August 8th.
Okay. I don't think we'll be able to go. Okay, but
Yeah.
that's good to know for next year. And you have, it goes past 15 or 14, right?
Yeah. So after our teen camp program, then we have a leadership program, which is our counselor and training program. And that goes for 2 years. And then some folks will also come back and just do an extra year of the teen camp, especially when they come in a little bit older, and then they can grow into the leadership program after that.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. I'm so excited.
Yeah, me too. Other questions? Thanks everybody so much. Well, if you do think of other things, I'm going to stay on. So if you want to linger for a moment, you can. Or you can send me an email or Courtney B. And we'd be happy. And if you wanted to have a one-on-one call, I'm happy to do that too. And I just want to remind folks that we have tours on Saturdays. If you do want to go out and see the camp itself, you can. Those are from 10 until 3. And I'm going to be at camp June 6th. That's the tours that I'm going to be doing. If you come in the next couple of weeks, it's going to be other leadership members there. But just be in touch and we're happy to help. But thanks everybody so much. And I hope you have a good rest of your week. And I really appreciate people coming, and thank you so much for the questions at the end.
I have to hop off. Thank you so much, Lily.
Have a great night, everybody. Thank you.
Oh, I have a question. If I'm gonna come and view the camp, I know it's from 11 to 3.
Yes.
Is it all day, or you can just pop in and view and pop out?
You can come in any time in there. And just when you get down to camp, you just want to find, if you want to send me an email ahead of time, I can tell you exactly who to look for on a particular Saturday. If you happen to just, want to drop in, you're just going to tell anybody there that you want a tour, and there'll be somebody coordinating that day, and they'll set you up with a tour. A lot of times on those Saturdays, we have returning campers. There will be a staff member there, and they can show you around.
Okay, I probably may come on the 31st.
Say that again?
So I probably may come on the 31st.
Awesome.
That's my work weekend. I'll be there.
Yeah, so Louise will be there and can show you around. Yeah, that's great.
Sounds good. All right,
Thanks
thank
so
you.
much.
Okay.